They don't clean this room very often.
They don't vacuum. I don't remember last year vacuum.
Yeah.
This is the Lake County Board of County Commissioners Budget Workshop on May 22nd, 2025 in Board Chambers, Administrative Building, Tavares, Florida.
turned off.
All right, good morning. It's a beautiful day in Lake County. It's May 22nd, 2025. We're here for, what is this, the third or fourth in a series of wonderful budget meetings, third. Welcome to everybody. We will go ahead and get started with our invocation. Today will be Pastor David Averill from First United Methodist Church in Mount Dora. Thank you very much for coming out this morning and leading our invocation.
Yes, absolutely.
And our pledge, too. Thank you.
And remain standing for the pledge afterward. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, I give you thanks and praise for this beautiful county, O Lord, and we just pray for wisdom and guidance as we seek to make challenging decisions for the citizens of Lake County, and be with these leaders, O Lord, and grant them a spirit of wisdom and discernment and cooperation. And I ask all these things in your holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you so much.
All right, I guess if you're a county commissioner, you can only dream of days like this where it's just you. All right, so what are we going to do?
So good morning, Mr. Vice Chair / Chair for now. Commissioner Campion is on her way. She should be here shortly. We do have Commissioner Smith who is online participating by Zoom. However, Commissioner Sabatini and Commissioner Morris were unable to make it today. However, this is a workshop, so there will be no votes taken, so we can go ahead and proceed as planned.
Excellent, okay. So apparently I can't do much. There's no votes taken. No making the motion, seconding it, and voting on it at the same time, right? Okay.
I second your motion.
Yeah, thank you, yes. And for anybody in the audience, obviously, I'm just kidding. So, all right, thank you, Jennifer. And again, Commissioner Campion should be here momentarily, so we'll just, I guess, get right into it. You want to go ahead and start?
Yes.
Yeah.
So first, we're going to have the budget presentation for the Office of Building Services with the Director, Bill Ondelich.
Morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Executive Management. My name is Bill Ondelich. I am the Director of the Office of Building Services. And let's see if I can work this button. It's the outline of the presentation today. Our overview. Want to pull a little attention to our contractor public education part of it, as well as assisting other departments, including internal and external offices. Our org chart, we're showing 49 FTEs. And some of our accomplishments, we issued 17,000 permits, assisted close to 10,000 walk-in customers, 57,000 phone calls, and the last two bullets show that our permit technicians are taking advantage of our career ladder with obtaining additional certifications. That also helps to retain staff within the building department. This is another overview of our plan review and inspections. 79,000 inspections, reviewed 12, close to 13,000 for code compliance. And we've got the fire inspections, plan review. We attended the workshop for International Code Council, When Disaster Strikes. That's a damage assessment tool. And the same as our permit techs, our plan review and building inspectors are also getting new licenses, certifications, and that also is helps retain the current employees that we have. Licensing investigations, they responded to close to 2,000 responses. We issued 48 stop work orders. Unlicensed individual cases, 35. So we are diligent on pursuing unlicensed contractors in Lake County. We noticed 382 work without permit. We did status checks, and of course, we have the 945 at the bottom, and that was part of the damage assessment team. Out of those 945, we noted 15 that are either substantially damaged or need substantial improvement for flood. Some other efficiencies, we've updated our online forms and continue to update our online forms to make our checklist ADA accessible and fillable. Our last two bullets are we're continuing to look at and work with Open Counter software and QFlow software to aid in the reduction of staff time for questions that have to do with planning and zoning and building permitting. Plan review, we have a deputy building official, plans examiner. Our plan review turnaround times are less than a week, and I consider that close to spectacular. And as of right now, we've eliminated the outsourcing by using contract plan review services with our current staffing levels and the current workload. However, we do have contract plans examiners and inspectors ready to be called should that change at any time. There's our community partners. We work with the HBA and attend those meetings on a regular basis. We attend the FAP, GAMI, BOAF, and I attend the Lake Sumter State College Building Construction Management Advisory Board. This shows you where we are with respect to our neighbors. As you can see right now, we're looking pretty good. Sumter did not report numbers for this particular slide. Number of inspections per inspector. Number of permit process for permitting technicians. And we're at the favorite slides are our proposed budget. You know, permits and fees reflect a reduction based on the decreased number of permits and contractors' use of private providers. Our charge for services reflects an anticipated increase based on commercial fire plan review and inspections. Fines and forfeits reflects an anticipated increase based on unlicensed contracting and building without permits. And the total revenues are down by 0.6%. Our personnel services reflects proposed wage adjustments, increase in certified staff, and an increase in insurance costs. Operating expenses reflects a decrease in software consultant expenses. For capital outlay reflects rebudget for permitting software and the purchase of new vehicles. And that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
I think a quick question that early on in your presentation, the slide with this 50% substantial damage flooding, are you? And you may have said it, so I apologize. But are you still doing a significant amount of that? And do you have? Is there one person that does that for the floodplain manager that makes that determination, or is it?
So PW has the the floodplain manager for the county. We send our licensing investigator out to survey the 945 damaged properties with our floodplain administrator to make that call. And with them out there, they have identified 15 properties. And for those 15 properties, those property owners receive letters. And those letters give instruction of what to do. We are currently in the midst of working with the people that receive the letters.
That's good. So I'm sure they may not be happy about that, or
they may not be happy about it.
Yeah, but are they? But all that process is going well, and that's
It's
I mean, as
going.
good as it can go.
We're trying, this year, in collaboration with our partners over in Public Works, we are trying to make this a more painless
Yeah.
process. However, the answers are what the answers are sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's tough.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
The one slide that showed the number of inspections per inspector, that was interesting to me that,
The graph or this one?
no, the bar graph. Yeah, so looking, why, I mean, Seminole and Osceola, that's, seems so much lower per inspector. They just,
So, there's a couple different ways you can look at something like that. Seminole and Osceola probably have a larger commercial base than we do. So commercial construction takes much longer to inspect than residential construction. And our base here in Lake County is roughly 85 to 90% residential, and the remainder is commercial. Most of the commercial in Lake County actually happens in the incorporated cities. So, or they will begin something and then they'll get annexed into a city. Where Seminole may not have the same thing, they may have, because they have a denser population and they may have more commercial going on in the boundaries for the county.
and could certain inspectors have certain like specialties or areas that they only inspect like one type of thing?
So we try to get away from that. We don't want single trade inspectors. I mean, it's okay if you come to Lake County with a single trade inspection, but our first order of business is to get you certified in as many inspection categories as you can. I don't want to send 4 inspectors to a project when I can send 1 or 2. It's just more efficient. And we're able to keep same-day inspections in Lake County and have with, negligible rollovers. If something happens to, we break down, of course, then we may have to roll over an inspection. But we pride ourselves in doing same-day inspections up till a call-in at 4 a.m.
So what about, I think that it might be the city of Mount Dora that is now doing same-day re-inspections. Is that something that we might be able to incorporate?
If you call for your inspection by 4 a.m., you'll get that same-day inspection. What we don't do is because, we're dealing with a much larger area than the city of Mount Dora, is if you call me at 1 o'clock and say, I need a re-inspection at 2 o'clock, that's probably not going to happen. Although, it depends if, our inspector cell phone numbers are distributed. They're not a secret. So if somebody is there in the morning and they say, look, you make these corrections and I'll swing by on the way back, then they'll go ahead and take care of that.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So, it's basically if possible, we do
Everything's
it.
possible. I can tell you that my inspection team goes above and beyond to try to accommodate the built community. We're in competition for everything we do, and they understand that we're in the competition for the same thing that the private providers are trying to take away from us. So, we have a different mentality. This isn't you come into us and we have to do this and we have to do that. We understand that we're a regulatory agency, but we understand also that we're a customer service-based industry. They don't have to come to us for everything they do. So we need to put out the effort to make sure that we're attractive and we're less expensive.
Great.
Just one other quick question. I'll ask this of planning later on too, to be fair. But so how do you, does the dynamic between zoning clearances and then your inspections and everything, is that all going good?
Is it smoother
Smoother, yeah.
than last year?
Everything's smoother. We continue to improve our processes every month. We have, if you looked at our org chart, we have the development review specialist, and that position's not only looking for, to aid us in the software because, she's quite talented in the IT realm of things, but, Lake County for a long time has been siloed in what we do. There's planning, there's public works, there's building. So she is also looking at process improvement. Just because we have always done something that way doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So our philosophy is question everything. Why? Why do we do this? You know, is it because, you know, back in 1998, we didn't have software that could do this, so this process has just carried through? We got to question everything. Let's be better and make things better. Let's make things quicker.
That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Continuous process improvement.
Continuous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I will mention too, they've been doing a lot of cross-training between the two departments. So when you go to get assistance at the window, one person is probably going to be able to help you with all aspects of your plan.
Continuous.
Thank you.
Right.
Hey, I do have one question.
I was about to ask, does anybody have their hands raised?
Yes, sir.
The question is, how are we coming along with our online permitting classes to help the citizens of Lake County understand the online permitting?
So right now, we're still using CD+, which we've had for the last 20 years. We have tutorials online for that. What we're gearing up to now is to move forward to the new, acquiring a new software package, but also looking to improve our current processes before we transfer processes over from the legacy system to a new system. So what I can say to that is anybody that needs help with our online permitting, we will give it to them. I mean, all our permit techs are trained in giving, step-by-step instructions and holding people's hand through the process.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, tab 2 is Glenn Goodsman, Director of Code Enforcement.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chairman, Commissioners here and online. For the record, I am Glenn Guzman, Director of the Office of the Code Enforcement. We'll begin with an overview of the chart. Organizational chart, accomplishments, efficiencies and challenges, benchmarks, and finish with our proposed budget. The Office of Code Enforcement responds to all kinds of complaints, including county codes, land development regulations approved by the board. Additionally, we perform standard housing inspections for rental properties, assisting renters with deficiencies and concerns. We also perform conditional use inspections and their related billing. We perform environmental inspections and investigations that may be referred to the appropriate agencies having a jurisdiction over that. We conduct average setbacks, landscaping, and mining inspections. The office conducts monthly public hearings for code enforcement cases. We also do the same thing for animal services for cases that are brought to us by the Sheriff's Office. We review and coordinate with planning and zoning on code amendments, and we oversee demolitions or cleanup of properties in violation, bringing challenging properties that have had code orders into compliance. Here you'll see the office is supported by 12 positions listed in the chart, with a concentration of officers being primarily in the field. And so here we are collaborating with CRA to identify opportunities and improving compliance in the area with high concentration of blight. We also are proudly continuing our maintaining our accreditation with the American Association of Code Enforcement as a four-star agency. And it's a distinction that underscores the commitment of our professionalism and delivering high quality of services to our residents. And this achievement isn't possible without the collective dedication of our men and women of the Office of Code Enforcement. We've also launched an initiative of code enforcement, or what we call ICE, intensive code enforcement, initiating in target areas with concentrated blight. The program has been well received. To date, we have completed an enforcement of 8 communities, and with additional communities scheduled in the coming months. We currently have 5 zones distributed by cases generated and population. Each officer is responsible for covering approximately 188 square miles. The land area exceeds that size of the entire city of Orlando, which is approximately about 120 square miles. We continue to utilize mobile office to maintain a response time of under 72 hours. In most cases, we're able to connect with individuals much sooner, sometimes on the same day. We continue to cross-train our staff to provide backup across multiple roles, ensuring uninterrupted service to our residents as our top priority. One of our challenges have been, are you able to see the bottom of that? It's cut off for some reason, so sorry about that. But Senate Bill 60 passed in 2021, as everyone's probably familiar with by now, and it prohibited complaints and continues to create hesitation amongst our residents. We probably receive complaints about that. And they're reluctant to provide their personal information due to the fear of retaliation from the neighbors. While this has led to a reduction in the number of complaints received, our officers have adapted and taken a proactive approach, or a hybrid approach, addressing not only the reported properties, but also identifying and responding to additional violations that may be as a 360 in the neighborhood as well. And so as we look at our first benchmark, Lake County ranks on the higher end of the spectrum in terms of population per officer, but that's a trend that's kind of reflective of the population growth. And we also see here that we're also ranked higher on the spectrum, but that's, that we're higher on the spectrum. However, it's an exceptional job that our officers are doing in managing that high, large geographical area, which is demanding, but our vehicles, travel a much longer distance. It takes a little bit longer, but the staff does a good job of managing that scope of area. And this side, you'll see that our complaints are at 4,476. This number was approximately 2,800 last year. So I want to point that out, is that has been increased to over 4,400 this year, and that's nearly a 60% increase, and that reflects the effectiveness of our hybrid approach, our intensive ICE, and the affected areas of high blight. And so without any additional staff or anything like that, the team has really collaborated on working together to get those things accomplished for us. And so here you'll see our benchmark when it comes to cases of compliance. And what we're pleased to report is that we've got 93% compliance rate, and that was reflective of the resolved cases without the need of enforcement or escalation to a special master hearing. And that also demonstrates the strong commitment of our voluntary compliance efforts. And so the budget reflects an increase in overtime due to the enhanced enforcement efforts that we've had, proposed wages, and increase in insurance costs. Our operating expenses have also increased, reflecting an increase in vehicle leases, risk internal services charges, driven by increased expenses. And that concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions you have at this time.
Question?
Thanks for your presentation. You're another one of our teams that has have a very tough job sometimes dealing with a lot of the negative side of things. So appreciate what you do and your whole team. You're in very difficult spots, placed in very difficult situations sometimes. So thank you. I don't know if it's really a question or anything, but the anonymous complaints issue, I know Florida Association of Counties was trying to take it up. Again, there was no change made on it, and it's pretty much the same, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It has stayed the same. So I know that there was an attempt to kind of probably have a moratorium on the public release side of the information. So even though we would retain the information, the idea was to probably not exempt the release for a period of time so that it kind of gives a cooling off period so that the neighbor that's upset and, it's just got to cut the grass. If it had 12-month cooling off period, and then they can call back in the year and find out who called in and get the information. But that has not had any legs to make it through.
Yeah, I know they were talking about maybe giving like you can do it 3 times, but maybe that's it per year. That was another idea. But it's still a problem, though. It can still be a problem because, like you said, there's probably people that are too afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why our hybrid, the ICE intensive coded, when we're receiving calls, we're really paying attention to, being sensitive as to the areas, and they're saying that I need you to come in through the whole neighborhood or on my street. And so identifying those areas that are in need so that we can take and do a collective approach and not just one house, but we're going into the community. And it's well received because now they don't feel like they're being targeted. They understand that we're just trying to improve the whole neighborhood. And so that's been well received.
Good way to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Commissioner Smith, did you have any questions or anyone else online? No?
No, I don't have any questions other than Glenn and your team are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, we appreciate you. All right, moving on to tab 3, Meg Brew, Director of Economic Development.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Meg Brewer. I have the pleasure of serving as the Director for the Office of Economic Development. Still having a hard time not saying Extension Services sometimes. So we'll be following the traditional outline today. I am going to lean a little bit more into talking about some of our partnerships because they really flesh out some of the work that we do. Our office consists of 4 FTEs, to include myself as the Director, a Workforce Development Specialist, a CRA Coordinator, and a Program Associate. So the Office of Economic Development pursues the county's vision of a prosperous local economy supported by a wide range of career opportunities, a diversified tax base, and an exceptional quality of life by focusing on the growth, retention, attraction, and creation of businesses and employment opportunities. In Lake County, we really approach economic development from 5 key angles: business attraction, business retention and expansion, business creation, site development, and workforce development. So business attraction focuses on bringing new opportunities to our community by offering attractive incentive programs, cultivating prime locations, and fostering a supportive business climate. We recognize the opportunity to shape our collective futures by seeking out and incentivizing businesses that will pay high wages, be good corporate citizens, and contribute to a diversified tax base. Equally important, if not more so, is taking great care of our existing businesses. So not only do they drive our local economy and employ our residents, but they also serve as our best advocates when new businesses are considering relocating here. We maintain strong relationships with local businesses through targeted site visits, active participation in chamber and industry events, and ongoing and regular communication. In fiscal year 24, we conducted 26 site visits to existing businesses and participated in 79 community meetings to learn about the needs of our business community. We also, of course, recognize that entrepreneurs and small businesses are the backbone of our economy. To support them, we partner with several key organizations, and we'll go more into that in a few minutes. Working with our municipal and private partners and in lockstep with the other departments that fall under development services, we also prioritize strategic site development to make sure that when opportunity does knock, we can open the door. Last but certainly not least, workforce development is one of our most critical focus areas, and to that end, we do employ a full-time workforce development specialist to liaison between local businesses, educational institution, and career training partners. In fiscal year 24, we held the first Workforce Summit for Lake County in partnership with the Florida Chamber of Commerce and the Florida Department of Education. And this event has been used as a model across the state to help other counties in their summit efforts. Our new website, which is nearly ready for publication, will feature a one-stop landing page for all things workforce in Lake County. We're really excited to see how this impacts our residents by further illuminating pathways to great careers with or without a college degree. I want to emphasize, of course, that none of these efforts are carried out in isolation. Our office really serves as the center connector for a robust and growing economic development ecosystem in Lake County. To this end, our office is also charged with providing reliable information and data to our many partners. In fiscal year 24, we delivered 16 presentations on economic development to stakeholders, hosted quarterly economic development organization luncheons, and published quarterly economic indicator reports for the business community. We also manage workforce and business-related data requests from other county offices and departments and prepare a list of top employers for the clerk's office every year. So as I alluded to earlier, we really lean into true collaboration with others when working in the economic and workforce development spaces. You're probably familiar with the adage that many hands make light work. In our case, many hands are really critical to making sure that this important work is accomplished. So we meet regularly with our partners to provide top-notch support to our local businesses and identify pathways to prosperities for our residents. These partners include LEAD, CareerSource Central Florida, Lake Technical College, Lake Sumter State College, Lake County Schools, our area business community, the Small Business Development Centers, Orlando Economic Partnership, the UCF Business Incubator, the National Entrepreneur Center, and many other regional economic development organizations. We also maintain close relationships with each of our 9 chambers of commerce, going as far as serving as ex officio members of several boards and working groups. Attendance to these monthly chamber functions affords us the opportunity to really fellowship with the business community and learn about any issues that they may be experiencing before they're elevated. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't also shine a light on our incredible internal partners. Economic development really touches every other county department, and we have enjoyed especially fruitful collaborations with our friends at Public Works, Library Services, Parks and Water Resources, Communications, Extension, Tourism, and of course, Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. Our office also plays a crucial role in providing funding to several CRE partners who are essential to advancing our collective mission. So these partnerships allow us to multiply the efforts of our small team by supporting and standing up complementary organizations. These partners include the UCF Small Business Development Centers, or SBDC, the UCF Eustis Lake County Business Incubator Program, we don't have a snappy acronym for that yet, the Orlando Economic Partnership, or OEP, and Lake Economic Area Development, or LEAD. The SBDC, supported by a partnership with UCF and the Small Business Administration, is a very valuable resource for businesses in Lake County. It offers expert guidance in business planning, financial management, access to capital, and market analyses. In fiscal year 24, the Lake County SBDC, which has offices in both Groveland and Eustis, assisted 292 businesses through 723 unique consulting sessions, totaling 1,457.5 hours of one-on-one consulting, all provided free of charge for the business owner. Another key business is with the UCF Business Incubator Program in the city of Eustis. Our incubator officially launched in October 2023 and is currently serving 4 clients. Achievements in the last fiscal year include hosting a business boot camp, meeting with 88 prospective clients, and speaking at 16 events. Through our partnership with the Orlando Economic Partnership, we have direct access to the latest local economic research and, more importantly, assistance in contextualizing and applying this data. The OEP has been instrumental in supporting our efforts to produce quarterly economic indicator reports, as well as on-demand reports for other government offices. And OEP's chief economist, Neil Hamilton, has graciously prepared and delivered Lake County-specific presentations for the economic outlook of our community to the BCC every spring. LEAD, our public-private economic development partner in Lake County, focuses on business attraction, retention, expansion, and creation. Their work really complements the county's efforts and extends our reach in pretty meaningful ways. In the past fiscal year, LEAD provided technical assistance to 51 existing businesses, visited 77 businesses, supported 51 entrepreneurs through training and resources, managed 14 active business attraction projects, and responded to 24 additional leads from Florida Commerce and other sources. LEAD also hosts 1 Million Cups every Wednesday morning in Eustis, and starting next month, this will also happen in South Lake that we're very excited about. 1 Million Cups has an average attendance of 50 entrepreneurs each week, and they organize industry councils 4 times a year for the purposes of networking and professional development. We just hosted one a couple weeks ago down in the south part of the county. Looking ahead to the next fiscal year and beyond, we're very eager to strengthen and diversify our partnerships with Central Florida's economic development ecosystem. We believe that we are at a pivotal moment for the growth and development of our community, and we understand the importance of having the right thought leaders at the table as we navigate the changes we're all experiencing. Brings me to some of our accomplishments. Sorry. Thirsty work. Many years ago, leadership in Lake County identified 4 strategic corridors that could function to both absorb the growth that we knew was coming and serve as job centers, allowing our residents to earn great salaries closer to home. Fiscal year 24 was an exciting time for our strategic corridors, and halfway through fiscal year 25, I can assure you that the momentum has not stalled. During fiscal year 24, the office actively participated in monthly Wellness Way meetings in collaboration with the City of Claremont. These meetings brought together the public and private sectors to strategize next steps for this exciting community. Our team has been working closely with our partners at LEAD to develop a website for Wellness Way, and the development services team as a whole has been collaborating with our GIS folks to develop an application that will allow for greater transparency regarding development in all of our strategic corridors, starting with Wellness Way and Wolf Branch. Christopher C. Ford is our oldest and most established corridor, and it continues to be a magnet for high-performing businesses. With the addition of 2 million square feet of speculative space, Christopher C. Ford stands poised to welcome new business to Lake County. The Mineola Interchange is, of course, also shaping up to be an exciting corridor. Our office worked to recruit and incentivize the Crooked Can Brewery to this community, and we celebrated their groundbreaking just last month. This business will help brand the corridor as a true live, work, play environment and will be a major draw for visitors to our community. Finally, our office met regularly with the City of Mount Dora to plan for the growth coming to the Wolf Branch Innovation District. 12 million square feet of commercial space has recently been entitled for this important corridor. We've been working with our communications team to develop a brand strategy for Wolf Branch Innovation District, and we look forward to sharing the proposed branding with you soon. As part of our business attraction and business expansion efforts, our office manages an economic development incentive grant program that makes our community stand out as truly the best place to do business in Central Florida. The incentive program has been leveraged to attract high-dollar capital investment and high-paying jobs to Lake County. We currently manage annual compliance for 3 grant agreements, and in fiscal year 24, shepherded a 4th business through the grant process. As a result of these efforts, over $237 million has been invested into Lake County, and over 1,200 new high-paying jobs have been created. We're forecasting an additional $17 million in capital investment, and 16 high-paying jobs will result from our most recent incentive agreement. In addition to our own grant program, we also are responsible for reporting for the Florida Jobs Growth Grant accepted by Lake County for infrastructure improvements in and around Mount Dora. Reporting on new jobs and capital investment in this area began in the summer of 2024 and is ongoing on a quarterly basis. So our investment in strategic planning and collaboration is paying off. Based on the most recently available data from 2023, our economy is growing at the fastest pace in the Orlando MSA. It's worth noting that the Orlando MSA is far outpacing the rest of the United States, and the fact that we are leading our MSA means that we are in the top third of all counties in the U.S. for growth and real GDP. Currently, retail, real estate, and healthcare are the top industries in Lake County. This means that there is still an opportunity for us to diversify our employment and industry base in order to develop a more resilient economy moving forward. Another benefit of working well with others is that we're able to recognize efficiency through cooperation. We've worked closely with our friends at LEAD to eliminate redundancy in the resources that we both access and to share resources as appropriate. Our divide and conquer approach has allowed us to reduce our budget in several key areas this upcoming fiscal year and to become more efficient with our use of time and talent. To that end, our office now shares a financial coordinator with other development services departments, which has led to improved efficiency and greater communication with our partners internally. So this brings us to the first of our benchmarks, but before we talk dollars and cents, I wanted to talk about the G word, growth. Our population has grown from just shy of 70,000 people in 1970 to well over 400,000 today, and we are still growing. UF's Bureau of Economic and Business Research, or BEBR, projects a 36% increase in population between now and 2050. That outpaces all of our surrounding counties aside from Sumter and Osceola. It's imperative that we lay a foundation for today for prosperity tomorrow. Our office is making sure that as Lake County adds these new neighbors, we also add new opportunities for all of our residents to engage in meaningful and well-compensated work and to enjoy the quality of life that has come to be associated with our community. We're constantly seeking out innovative ways to bring jobs to Lake County while also still preserving and protecting everything that makes this community so special. At present, 70% of our workforce leaves the county every day to go to work. When you take a look at average wages across our surrounding counties, you can begin to understand why someone might be incentivized to battle traffic every day. It's important that we bring not just more jobs to Lake County, but truly great jobs. Reducing our outflow number is not only good for individuals who gain more time with their families and reduce the wear and tear on their cars and their nerves, it's also good for our roads, our traffic, our collective car insurance rates, and the local economy. When people work where they live, the entire community benefits. As of fiscal year 2025, Lake County is being extremely efficient with our funds compared to surrounding counties, and I think this really speaks to the value of our strategic partnerships. And this brings me to my fiscal year 2026 budget request. Through strategic reallocation of funds, we were able to reduce our overall budget by over 0.5% while still allowing for additional investment opportunities where needed. This was accomplished in part by the fact that our incentive budget will naturally shrink as agreements mature and grow as agreements are added. Additionally, we were able to recognize savings from some of the efficiencies discussed earlier and by relocating one of our small business development centers to a location with a lower lease rate. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Great presentation. Yeah. You have questions?
You know, always a comment, I guess. Just would be remiss. I think it's more of just a comment to always take the opportunity to just say how important it is what you're doing. And you touched on it, and you did it in a great positive way, but it can't be stressed enough that when you talk about the sort of the benefits of having an economy that's moving away from the residential base that we're so familiar with in Lake County. And you mentioned the less driving time. It's just better for people to live closer to where they work. And I just can't stress enough how important that is. We don't create jobs. I always want to make it clear the government doesn't create jobs, but we try to put policies in place that encourage that. And just everything we do, I think, should be focused on trying to make that shift. It's so hard. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, and it's just really hard to do, to move away from, I'm just going to be living in Lake County and drive an hour to work now. It used to be a half hour, depending upon where you're at. And there's still a lot of people that are doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that too, by the way. But I just think it's really important. And it's a little counterintuitive because the growth, we get slammed with the growth management questions and why is this being approved and that and so on and so forth and all the rapid growth. But I think it's sort of counterintuitive to say, let's talk about our growth centers, the job centers, and you had those on the screen. I think it was slide 8 that you had them. I mean, that's so important for us to try to promote those. Those are wonderful opportunities for us. The timing is right to make that shift, and it's tough. And maybe this is just me lamenting a little bit because people complain about growth, and it's a little counterintuitive. But again, we have to have that kind of growth. I mean, if we're going to be protecting our quality of life, it costs money for trails and parks, and it costs money for the road projects we want to do. So we got to lift that base. And again, more of just not a question, but just more of a comment that I appreciate it. And I would just say it's really, we obviously work together, but on a daily basis, but it's just whatever we can do to continue to support that mission, and then all the other teams and departments working to support you, and it all works together. Everybody's working together on that. And again, just more of a comment, and I'm not sure I have a question. I know you're working hard. You spent a lot of hours on some Wellness Way presentations, Wolf Branch presentations recently, so I appreciate that too. Thank you.
We are passionate about what we do. It is hard work, but it's very important work.
Mm-hmm.
So in listening to the presentation, a thought came to mind, though, with regard to infrastructure, because, obviously, economic development centers around workforce development, and you had a lot of focus on that, working with our partners. I really feel like in the last decade, we've come so far as actually all working together towards the same goal, which is, careers that are here in Lake County that are available, high-wage job creation, an environment that would actually attract new businesses and provide opportunities, and ultimately, an economy where students that graduate in Lake County can come back or stay here and work. So those are all great things. But in light of our infrastructure needs, it seems like we might want to look at opportunities where economic development in your group could work hand in hand with Public Works.
Oh,
on-
we do. I think I have Jeff on speed dial, poor
Yeah.
thing. So, yes, it's incredibly important.
But maybe we could, as we move forward with some of our discussions with our cities, where we sort of package those specific projects and needs that we know in each region of the county where we've got our deficiencies. We've got, in most cases, we've already got the engineering plans ready for the projects. They're on the MPO priority list. We're just trying to get them across the finish line and find the funding for them. But in the case of working with the cities, we're trying to come up with ways where we might be able to engage the cities to participate more on the funding side of it, like you talked about on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking that we might want to kind of get together and brainstorm on how we may want to use economic development as the, as a vehicle to, so far we've been sort of focused just like on the intergovernmental coordination side of it and, how can we work together on joint planning? But maybe if we approached it a little different angle on the economic development side and making these investments in order to further the job creation side. We all know that it's a headache to get around right now. It's just so hard. There's so many congestion points. And the sad thing is that those places where we have the most difficulty with congestion, we already have the engineering plans ready for those projects. We just don't have the funding. And so I'm just kind of putting that out there as something that we might be able to.
I think that's a great idea, yeah, if I may.
Yeah.
It sounds like we want you to start going to MPO meetings now too, because, no, right? I mean, it's the connection. I think that's great, what you're talking about, Commissioner, because if we're trying to change the job base and we have these projects on the maps, like you said, we have engineering plans, well, it's relaying it from a sense of this is what you're going to get out of the investment. There's an investment that comes along with this, and tying it to the economic growth, I think, is a great idea.
Yeah, and engage the business community. Maybe by engaging the business community more in this discussion, as opposed to, okay, we've got this problem. We're not able to get the funding in place. We need more participation from the cities and more collaboration. But let's bring the business community into this discussion so they understand what we're really up against and what those, the logistical side of the funding. And maybe by doing that, we could get, greater assistance from them in helping us solve our problems. Commissioner Smith or anyone else that has their hands raised? Anyone? Okay, no. So great.
Oh,
great
just a good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you.
All right. Mike Fitzgerald, tab 4, Planning and Zoning.
Good morning. Mike Fitzgerald, the Office of Planning and Zoning Director. It's always tough following somebody who's such a good public speaker and a good presenter.
You do a good job too. Don't sell yourself short.
I'll be presenting the overview for the Office of Planning and Zoning. I'll begin by saying that we take the point on managing growth and development, but as we've discussed already, it's a collaborative experience with all county departments, the county attorney's office, and surrounding cities. We process and review development applications for site plans, preliminary plats, master plans. We coordinate with 14 cities on projects in the joint planning areas and the interlocal service boundary areas. We issue zoning permits. We prepare and review applications for public hearings such as rezonings, comprehensive plan map amendments, text amendments, variances, and conditional use permits. We update the comprehensive plan and land development regulations. We assess impact fees, and we respond to planning and zoning public inquiries. Our org chart, we have 23 full-time employees, and one of the changes from last year, you'll see we have a new financial group. and that is led by the Senior Financial Coordinator. Our accomplishments: we've successfully processed outstanding online applications in a timely manner. We've assisted more than 8,000 walk-in customers. We've reduced turnaround time for impact fee assessment. We've improved customer service by enhanced employee professional development. We've increased our rate of answered phone calls. We've reduced lobby wait times. We have a cross-training program for associate planners so that they can grow in their career and hopefully grow within Lake County in their career. We've processed approximately 2,400 public records requests, and we've approved approximately 140 development applications. Some of the efficiencies to highlight: we've implemented the Q-Flow system, which is an automated appointment management system. That is how we reduce the lobby wait times. We've reduced turnaround time for zoning clearance to less than a week. Project sufficiency review, less than a week. We've restructured existing staff to manage the workload. Reduced the number of group inboxes and emails so we can manage the emails a little better as they come in. We've increased project handling efficiency and enhanced our communication with applicants to give them status of their projects. We've improved the career training for staff. We've implemented the open counter system so that the public can ask questions online to get simple answers on the projects that they're proposing to do. Some benchmarks for our budget. As you can see, we're in line with neighboring counties on the proposed budget. Our full-time employees, we are in line with neighboring counties. Sumter is an outlier. They're managing the growth of the villages, and I believe a lot of that is outsourced. If they had I imagine, this is just an opinion, I imagine if they were doing all of that in-house, that they'd be a little closer to Orange County's full-time employees. And then this is the highlight of our proposed budget. Personal services is relatively the same. The operating expense is decreased, and that's representative of the $500,000 that was encumbered for the comp plan that was in last year's budget. The grants and aids, that dollar figure is for the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, and the capital outlay is unchanged, and that is money that's encumbered for the renovation of 320 building and the new software, our contribution to the new software. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions?
All right, so I asked building the same question. How is the dynamic going with the zoning clearances and the working with questions getting answered? Sounds like your zoning, what do you call them, zoning conformance letters, or?
We have zoning conformance letters
Yeah.
that'll tell you yes or no what you can do, and then zoning permits where you've presented a plot plan and you can move forward with a building permit.
The clearance moves, right. So how do you think that process is going?
I think it's very smooth. If I had to say what kind of feedback we're getting, I did not attend the meeting, the last Home Builders Association meeting, but my understanding is that they gave very positive feedback to Lake County for how the process is going.
Excellent. Okay, good to hear. And, you know, that's been important to all of us, as you've heard, over the last couple of years. And working with HBA is great, too, by the way. I really appreciate that. I don't know if that's been mentioned yet, but you guys are all very active in working with them. So I do appreciate that. I mean, whatever resources you need, I'm not one to, you know, just keep throwing more and more people at it, but I've always thought that maybe sometimes you need more people, and if that's the case, and resources that you need to make it efficient, or maybe it's not people, maybe it's I don't know how you're you know, with software, if you've improved. I guess you mentioned GIS, so you're working with our GIS, I'm sure, to make sure that you've got the latest and greatest on that.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. But, you know, if resources are in need, of course, I want to be supportive, because I think it's important to have good service and not have people wait and things like that, so.
Right. Well, the new software system will be a tremendous tool in that regard.
Yeah, great, okay.
Just a quick question on the comp plan update, if you could just fill us in on the latest as far as what we should expect timing-wise, what's on the horizon.
If I were to compare the comp plan update to building a home, I would say we're at the phase of grading the lot.
Okay. We got our zoning clearance, so.
But now we get expedited permitting, though, so.
So we're having regular meetings with the consultant. You're asking about the consultant and
yeah.
the status. We're having regular meetings with the consultant. We're lining up dates, times, places for workshops. We're working with our communications department to establish branding, surveys, website. So we're getting everything teed up so we can move forward with engaging the public.
We actually have a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Board on June, I believe it's the 10th,
June 10th, we have
with
our,
Kimley Horn.
and that's essentially a Planning 101 workshop for the sake of the Board of County Commissioners and the Planning and Zoning Board. Commissioner Parks, I'm sure you're familiar with the Planning 101 sessions that happen at the conferences for the sake of elected officials. That's similar to what they want to do now.
Excellent. Good. And we'll follow with some kind of, I'll call it significant code change, to whether it's form-based or some hybrid, and that's all going to follow too as well. And this is to make it easier, by the way, and more business-friendly in some situations, and, protect our mission with rural protection areas and others, but that's going to follow as well. We're not quite there with that. We have to do comp plan first, or kind of simultaneously at least.
Right. That'll be painting the house.
Yes.
Yeah, we let the consultant know that we were interested in a form-based code or some type of hybrid, and that they should probably be looking at policies that would support that.
Good. All right, I think that'll be very good for us, just from my experience at least.
And this consultant in particular has experience with form-based code. So we'll put the RFP out about halfway through the comp plan update. We'll put the RFP out for some assistance with the LDRs, and we'll see if we get the same consultant or not.
When we do the community meetings, I guess we'll be moving around different locations in the county. Do we, as a matter of course, invite the local elected officials or city officials in those areas where we'll be?
Yes, ma'am. We are specifically going to host meetings where we have them with the municipalities.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Smith or anyone else online? Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right, great. Thank you, Mike. Moving on to Animal Services.
Hi there.
I always like to see which pictures you put in your presentation.
I apologize. I do not have a kitten in my pocket today. Whitney Boylston, Office of Animal Services. We're going to be following the same outline that you're very familiar with at this point. Of course, we are probably most well known for our adoption program and assisting residents with lost and found pet services and shelter-assisted rehoming. And you know that our staff is highly dedicated to providing compassionate care while remaining dedicated to our life-saving mission. We also work in partnership with local law enforcement agencies in both large and small-scale animal cruelty investigations in the pursuit of justice for the voiceless. Our veterinary team does amazing work outside of what you would normally expect a public animal shelter, which would be your spays and your neuters. Just earlier this week, they repaired a diaphragmatic hernia on a 7-week-old kitten. So a life-saving surgery on a teeny tiny little baby, and she is doing very well. We, of course, have our Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Return program, Operation Community Catter Day, which we rebranded as Every Day is Catter Day, which is our proactive and humane approach to reducing the outdoor cat population. And then our wellness program has become particularly popular, and this provides low-cost veterinary services for owned animals. These are wellness services like vaccines and testing. With the rising cost of veterinary care, we are trying to do our part to keep the pets in the community as healthy as possible, because the shelter pet health is a direct reflection of those pets that are coming from our neighborhoods. You can see our total animal admissions over the last several years. We generally shelter somewhere between 5,000 and 6,500 animals. However, in 2024, we met 6,761 animals. When we compare our year to date, we are actually up 10% this year, even from the previous year. So we will see how that continues to track moving forward. This is our organizational chart. We have a small but mighty team. I'd like to point out that everybody on our staff is now fear-free certified. That's part of our onboarding process. Fear-free is a philosophy that helps to reduce the fear, anxiety, stress, and frustration in our shelter pets so that they can have a much more pleasant experience while they're with us. And we're proud that everybody is getting that certification. And it is free, by the way. So this is what fiscal year 2024 kind of looked like for us. Many folks are surprised to know that we actually see almost double the number of cats, if not more, than dogs. And that's because our length of stay for cats is significantly shorter. So our daily shelter population, we have many, many more dogs in care than we do cats on a given day. However, we are sheltering somewhere around 4,000 cats and 2,000 dogs. Our adoption program remains strong. We adopted out over 3,000 animals last year, reunited 753 with their family. Our dog return to owner rate is holding steady about 40%, which is, I think, better than the national average, but not as good as we would hope it to be. Our transfers to rescue are not going that well. Animal shelters, as you know, have been in crisis at least since 2022, and our private partners are not immune to that. So everyone is full, and everyone is struggling. Our community cat program, however, is continuing to grow. So Operation Community Catter Day, every day is Catter Day. We had a record-breaking year this year. You can see nearly 1,500 cats went through that program in 2024. And so far, fiscal year to date, we're actually looking at a 27% increase over those numbers. So we are encouraged that we will have yet another record-breaking community cat year. And last week, we actually sterilized our 5,000th community cat. We were going to have confetti, but we thought that that might upset the cat a little bit. So we, of course, offer our monthly Catter Day School program, which remarkably is still very popular. People are showing up. Our residents are learning all about how the program works, how to trap cats, even those difficult cats, the best practices in community cat management. I think that they come for the presentation and the jokes. They may be coming for the free coupons to get 3 cats sterilized. So either way, that program is very popular. We also take Catter Day School on the road when requested, and we will teach it to individualized communities and neighborhoods, and those folks are really thankful that we make the trek out to visit them. Not that long ago, we went out to Paisley and had a really great turnout. It was nearly standing room only. Another very popular program that we're proud of is our Wait Till 8 program. If you're not familiar, this is where residents find kittens and they enroll them in this free support program where we provide vaccines, deworming, wellness checks, supplies, anything that those kittens need. And then the finder actually holds on to them until they are big enough, old enough, or well enough to join our adoption program. This is fantastic because it keeps those kittens safe and out of the shelter environment. They get socialized with a family, and very often those finders may turn into adopters, or their friends or family or coworkers do, and those kittens have to spend very little time in care. In 2024, 57% of all kittens entering the shelter went through our Wait Till 8 program, and this year, even though it is very early in the season, that trend is continuing. So this program literally saves lives and resources, and we are so proud of our community for stepping up to be a partner in animal welfare. We were able to purchase a new x-ray machine. We did this with donation dollars, so no impact to our regular budget. And in addition to that, this saves us a significant amount of money in off-site imaging. So we're able to get that prompt access to diagnostics immediately and then make really informed care decisions on site. And then, of course, our veterinary assisting program loves that they don't have to use a fake model x-ray machine when they're learning those skills. So you can see here where our animals came from in 2024 and all of our outcomes. 2024 is a particularly difficult year in animal services. Our confiscations normally account for about 1% of our total admissions. You can see that that piece of the pie is significantly larger. Also, our non-live outcomes, that piece of the pie is much, much larger than we normally present to you. That is the result of multiple large-scale animal cruelty confiscations in partnership with the Lake County Sheriff's Office and the state-mandated and court-ordered euthanasia of hundreds of cockfighting roosters, unfortunately. Those euthanasias actually accounted for well over 70% of the total euthanasias for the year. So that had a negative impact on our overall live release rate. So we are typically reporting back to you somewhere in the 95 to 96% range overall. In 2024, that did drop to 88%, but not as any kind of reflection in a change of our philosophy or the way that we operate, our life-saving mission. These, unfortunately, were non-live outcomes that were well outside of our control. So we are going to talk more about our cats and dogs. And so we are comparing our neighboring counties here. Volusia County does not show up on our chart because they have a public-private partnership with Halifax Humane Society, so it's not exactly apples to apples there. So you can see we are right in the middle for overall dog and cat admissions. And then our dog and cat admissions per 1,000 residents, we do creep up a little bit higher. We know that the percentage of animals that are entering public shelters throughout the country are influenced by a couple of factors, including our rural versus urban communities. We do see a higher percentage in the more rural areas. And then also that's impacted by the presence or lack thereof of brick and mortar large humane societies, SPCAs, and things that are available in the community as alternatives. Our dog and cat positive outcome rate, so this is live release rate for dogs and cats, excluding owner-requested euthanasias as compared to our neighboring counties. You can still see that our team is doing an amazing job finding those positive outcomes for our pets. So we sat right at 95%, which is where we have been, and that breaks down to 96% of our dogs, 94% of our cats are finding positive outcomes, many of them through adoption, return to community programs, and so on. It's also interesting to point out that though owner-requested euthanasia is excluded from these calculations, we have seen a significant increase in demand for that service, primarily as the result of the rising cost of veterinary care. So for our dog population, actually 40% of our euthanasias were at the request of the owner in the past year, which is significantly higher than it has been in past years. Here you'll see our fiscal year 2026 requested budget. The personnel services, of course, reflect those proposed wage adjustments and an increase for the insurance costs. And then as far as our operating expenses are concerned, actually the bulk of that, almost all of that, is the addition of on-site security to keep our visitors and staff safe at the animal shelter. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
On those owner-requested euthanasias, is it, I mean, they're basically presenting it as a hardship situation where they've got an animal that's very sick, they can't afford to otherwise do it?
Correct. So sometimes these people are experiencing homelessness. Sometimes it's other financial hardship, but it really has become a barrier to end-of-life services in our community. People are being quoted hundreds of dollars for that service, and many just can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe when you do your reporting too, you could break that out. One more slide that is your, euthanasia, as you did it with all animals, and you break out dogs and cats, and then maybe the ones that are owner requested as a separate category. I don't know, but It just seems like it certainly falls in a different category than a scenario where you've got to put an animal down because, you know, they're in our care already and they're sick or they're, dangerous. How, as far as the ones that, as far as the population that is of dogs that are euthanized, how would you categorize? Is it typically, I mean, once we set aside, you know, the illness, it's the dangerous situation or the court-ordered situation, and does it still, is it primarily pit bull still, or pit breeds that are in that population that we're not able to adopt, but otherwise we don't have a live outcome?
Okay, so specifically for dogs in fiscal year 24, I can tell you exactly. We had 2 that were euthanized as a result of a court order, so, you know, by the special magistrate. We had 10 that were severely ill, so unable to recover, suffering. We had 5 that were injured to the point that they, you know, could not be saved. And these, may have been hit by a car, you know, something traumatic like that, and unfortunately they're just not able to be saved. And then we had 25 at the request of the owner. And then we had 18 that were euthanized for behavioral concerns. And that is a very, very small number of animals when you consider that we saw over 2,000 dogs. So out of over 2,000 dogs, we had 18 that we made a safety decision, you know, based on their behavioral history. So we are, you know, really committed to that life-saving and finding those positive outcomes, and we don't give up on our pets easily or quickly.
Well, I appreciate you having all of that information available. And then as far as our rescues, you said they're pretty much maxed out. I know at one point there was some request out there for, you know, how could we maybe coordinate more with them when we run out of space and they may have space, but it sounds like everybody is pretty much maxed out.
Correct. We've got surrounding counties that are actually incentivizing rescue pulls with money. So like Orange County Animal Services, they have a grant fund and they pay a couple $100s for pets that are pulled, you know, by rescue organizations. And even with those incentives, they are struggling to find placement for their pets that are in most need. So it's a very difficult time in animal welfare. And so we are tasked, of course, with saving those lives sometimes independently and doing what we need to do to find them those outcomes.
And I'm really happy to hear about the wellness program. I think that's excellent. Now, are you doing that with a mobile unit? How are you actually?
The wellness program is on site. It's our medical team. We do it a couple hours every week. People make an appointment. The services are very, very affordable. So our regular vaccines are $10. A heartworm test is actually $10. You can get your dog heartworm tested with us. We have that client-patient relationship, and then the owner can go to an online pharmacy and order their heartworm prevention, and then we can authorize that prescription. We know that regular visits to the vet are becoming just out of reach and unaffordable for a lot of our residents, but we want those pets out in our community to be protected against common illnesses, you know, like parvo. And then, of course, we see a lot of heartworm-positive dogs that come through the shelter because heartworms are carried by mosquitoes, and we don't really have a shortage of those.
Okay. Oh, when you were in Paisley, where did you go? I'm just curious. You said standing room only.
We were at the Impact Community Church.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, great. Questions?
No question, just to compliment you. I think you do great work, amazing work, wonderful team, very dedicated, extremely passionate. I love it. You're always out there promoting the cause. And another reason why Lake County is the best Lake County. I mean, great departments all over. You're doing a wonderful job. You're right out there front. It's a very difficult situation to deal with, very emotional at times, but you handle it so professionally, so very well, and with all these great outcomes, great numbers. I just couldn't be more proud. And I'm also happy to report that Calvin, our cat, is 9 months now, I guess, has doing very well. Yes, he's named after Calvin and Hobbes. That's where his name comes from. And thank you for helping us with that cat.
I'm sorry for traumatizing your wife.
No, no. Yeah, well, she witnessed the, yes, yeah, the little surgery that Calvin had to have, so. But it was all good. And I get a little worried when, if she starts calling you and doing things back and forth, because I don't know if there's like another cat in my future here, but.
There's always another cat in your future.
Yeah.
We're working
yeah.
up to a dog for sure.
Yeah, it could happen.
Anyone online? Okay, all right. Well, great, and thank you I appreciate the fact that there's always something new. There's like this, the wellness thing, I know you've been working on that for a while, but it seems to really have, taken off, and that's great. And I love the fact that the Catter Day, we're back on track. As far as like the waiting, and remember we had the backlog and people couldn't get in, but we're able to pretty much.
It's still a very, very popular program, and appointments do book out several weeks in advance. What we're seeing is an increase in people showing up for their appointments, hopefully day to day. So we're able to serve more cats on a daily basis, which is how we're getting those numbers to continue to rise. We have hopefully some exciting plans to bring to you in the future. We've been working with Fleet with a mobile unit that was donated from the Department of Health and their mobile dentistry that we're working on getting converted to spend some time out in the community doing some really exciting and fun services. So we're really excited about that.
Excellent. Great. Look forward to hearing about it. All right. Tony Deaton, Chief Probation Officer.
Good morning. Tony Deaton, your Chief Probation Officer for the County Probation Office. I'm here to present the FY26 County Probation Budget. You'll see on our overview, it's the standard outline. In our overview, Lake County Probation is helps the court administer justice at the misdemeanor county level. And so our office enhances community safety by providing cost-effective supervision of pretrial diversion cases and probation for misdemeanor crimes. Our officers enforce compliance with court-ordered conditions as an alternative to jail in accordance with Florida law. Our teen court and work in lieu of arrest programs divert juveniles from formal prosecution and help hold them accountable while avoiding the stigmatizing effects of prosecution. Our office is primarily charged with over 90% supervising misdemeanor probation and pretrial cases for adults, enforcing compliance with probation and community services. So we have about 500 offenders, completed over 14,000 hours of community service this past year. We enforce restitution orders to restore victims by requiring offenders to pay restitution for the harm they caused. We enforce vehicle immobilization orders for the courts for DUI offenses, and we make substance abuse referrals and monitoring, and also refer for employment, mental health, and other community resources and placement. You'll see our county probation chart. We have 15 full-time employees. 13 of those primarily deal with the probation, and we have 2 with the juvenile diversion programs. Some of our accomplishments, again, we supervised over 3,300 court-ordered cases, performed over 7,000 face-to-face personal contacts and 17,000 telephone contacts, coordinated the completion of community service to allow offenders to make restitution in a non-monetary fashion. So they help restore the communities they offended by doing work projects. We successfully facilitated the early termination of 921 probation cases. So oftentimes, judges put people on probation for a year, and they authorize an early termination after 6 months in full compliance. So we're very effective in motivating people and assisting people in complying successfully with their probation and pretrial contracts. And also, we collected over $44,000 in restitution, which was returned to victims for their losses. Again, we coordinated our gap discussions, and these are, discussions between law enforcement officers and youth and their families to help break some myths about, what law enforcement's role actually is in the community. It also helps officers understand kids nowadays. So it's called gaining appreciation by adjusting perspectives. We also led the reimplementation of the opioid task force, and we do the annual reporting through the DCF's opioid reporting portal. We assist the Department of Corrections and law enforcement with special operations for enforcement of probation compliance for high-risk offenders at the state and the county level. We assist the sheriff's office in taking people into custody who have probation violations, so we assisted in the apprehension of 63 probationers at the jail and the probation office. Tracked all of our offenders, over 3,000 of them who have state ID numbers on our Falcon watch list. So anyone getting fingerprinted while under our supervision we get a notification. We can promptly notify the court and take necessary action for violations. And we assist the jail by diverting hundreds of adults and juveniles to community mental health treatment programs. We also furthered Lake County's diversion initiative by using peer recovery organizations, so really just fast-tracking access to substance abuse treatment for people that are coming onto probation with drug problems. And we partner with Be Free Lake, our community drug-free coalition, and other recovery community organizations to distribute Narcan to support Lake County's opioid abatement plan. Our benchmarks, you'll see that last year we had an active caseload of 860, and that's just on the first of each month, the average active cases that we had, and we're anticipating about the same number in this current year. Last year, you'll notice the spike, 1,100, and that's an inadvertent recording. Our actual caseload was 800 active cases. That 1,100 there reflects our workload, so, which is much higher than our active caseload at one point in time. As like Animal Services said, we got a lot of animals coming in and out, but on any given day, they have a certain amount. The jail has a certain number of people, maybe 800 in the jail, but they get 14,000 people coming through. Our office gets on average one new probationer every hour coming on and one coming off every hour of every work day. So there's a lot of work that gets done by our little office. Our successful rate of completion, last year was 77%. We're anticipating 77, but we're shooting for higher. You'll notice in FY23 our completion rate was the highest ever, and that was because our caseload was the lowest ever. And so we tend to do better when we have adequate supervision of offenders instead of an unmanageable number of offenders, as has happened in the past. Number of active cases, and this is a point-in-time survey for April 1st. You'll see Lake County has 713 cases on April 1st, and it's at the low end of the spectrum. You'll see it ranges from 267 in Sumter County to all the way to 2,060 in Polk County. There has been a dramatic decrease in both the jail population and arrests in Lake County and people sentenced to probation since COVID. And so there's been a noticeable change, and we think that's a good thing. Certainly we're able to more successfully manage the population that we do have and get them into treatment services and help them get services needed. Our number of probation officers as of April 1st is we have 7 full-time probation officers, and that's right about the middle. And our number of cases per officer on April 1st, when you divide our number of active cases and our officers, we have 119 cases per officer. That's pretty much the sweet spot that we're looking for. Obviously, the workload's higher, so it's not uncommon for officers to have an additional 40 cases coming on probation every month and coming off probation every month. And obviously, when we get up to 200 range, we're going to be coming back and requesting additional staff, but we're not anywhere near that at this point in time. We do collect supervision fees from offenders in accordance with Florida statute, and that helps offset the operating costs of probation services. So we currently assess $55 per month plus a $20 administrative fee for the first month. We're at the middle of the range there. We found in the past, as we've raised the supervision level, or the supervision fees, oftentimes will have a decrease in collections. So there is a diminishing return the higher the supervision fees get. Like, for instance, someone's charged with shoplifting might have a $200 fine. 6 months on probation may cost them $350 additionally, plus mandatory court costs. So the court's really eager for us to enforce quick compliance, get them in successful compliance, and get them off probation without attaching more monetary strain on people who are compliant. County probation proposed budget. This is the 91% of the general fund that is included in our budget. We have requested $1,153,990 for the coming year. That's a 5.7% increase. That's strictly for probation. In our teen court budget, we've requested $117,882. That's a decrease of 4.9%. We're able to do that because our Department of Juvenile Justice is pushing all law enforcement agencies to utilize civil citation. They call that delinquency citations now, which is pure diversion. So we may have a school resource officer or a road patrol deputy who encounters a first-time youthful offender, and they give them a civil citation. They refer them to us. We get them in the weekend work program, and we get them diverted. And the case never goes into the juvenile justice system. It's pure diversion, so they don't have any kind of a stigma attached to it. So they're pushing us from the teen court, which is where they're actually getting entered into the juvenile court system, and we get our in teen court, and the charge is dismissed. Still shows as an encounter with the juvenile justice system, which can impair their ability to get employment or get into the service. And so we're excited about that, although, we're finding the shift to the front end of the diversion is positively impacting the back end of the system. We're getting ahead of kids earlier, and so we believe that that might be an indicator of some of the decreased utilization of probation and jail and maybe even arrests. So overall, our budget is a 4.6% increase in the coming year, and that's 91% general fund and 9% the local restricted programs fund attached to the teen court program. And that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
I guess on that juvenile justice approach, only time will tell as far as whether that ultimately, is there any tracking of how these kids do then later after they hit adulthood and they're...
Absolutely. Every case is entered to the juvenile justice system. So we have less than a 2% recidivism rate after 1 year of completing the work in lieu of arrest program, which is, it's better than the state average. State average is about 4%.
That's great.
So, so our program's highly successful and it's rapidly growing.
Great, good job.
That's through teen court?
That is the WILA program, work in lieu of arrest, but teen court is similar, very low recidivism rate.
Okay, yeah.
As compared to probation, we have about 77 successful completion percentage, and 10% of that is new offenders, offenders that are committing new law violations while they're on probation, fully 10%. Another 13% is non-compliance with technical conditions, and so that is people that either can or won't comply with the community service and other programs. Oftentimes, it's the monetary aspect of it. 10% of the people that are coming on to probation are asking us to send them to jail because they've got some insurmountable problems, drugs, mental health, financial unemployment, and so we're really having to use motivational interviewing to engage them, give them the opportunity to be successful on probation, and try to divert them out through a notice to appear if they're unsuccessful, as opposed to a warrant and just sending them to jail. So we continue to work with people in the community who, are trying, and then obviously the people that are reoffending and willfully non-compliant, we're going to refer back to the court for appropriate action.
Sure, but teen court is more than just truancy. It's some of these, it's their first time offense that,
Yeah, it may be a second or more offense. It's
yeah.
typically the ones that don't qualify for the WILLA program, the pure first and second offenders are going to get filed with the juvenile justice system, and then the prosecutor diverts them back to teen court. And we do have some juveniles that are on adult probation for criminal traffic offenses. The juvenile justice system does not handle any criminal traffic offenses by juveniles, and so they come on to adult probation, and what we do, we divert them to teen court. We get them in our teen court program. We don't want to commingle them with our adults, and so we are trying to divert them back to teen court. And we
Yeah, and obviously, this isn't, like, somebody, violent crimes or anything.
Nope,
It's a little
nope, they're
different.
nonviolent, minor offenders typically. So, and law enforcement does a lot of the screening. We have great cooperation with law enforcement, so we meet regularly with them quarterly, and they are pushing us to increase our utilization of these teen diversion programs to 80% of eligible youth. And so that's why we're seeing that increase, because right now we're at about 60% utilization, and the Department of Juvenile Justice is really pushing for diversion. By the same token, there is an increase in violent crime and weapons, particularly handgun charges with juveniles. And so last year, the statute has increased, and there's mandatory sentencing now of juveniles for violent and, weapons offenses, and an increased use in electronic monitoring by the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Anyone online with a question or comment? All right, great. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and then we'll start back up with emergency management. Okay, we'll start back up with some emergency management. Megan?
Good morning, Megan Milanese, Director, Emergency Management. Same outline as we've had earlier today. We're using the standard outline today for our budget presentation. As an overview for our office, the Lake County Office of Emergency Management is obviously responsible for the management and activation of the Emergency Operations Center. We maintain and update Lake County preparedness plans, including the Comprehensive Emergency Preparedness Plan. We manage the Lake County Emergency Notification System, or Alert Lake, as we brand it publicly. And we manage and coordinate the county's training and exercise program, as well as our public education and preparedness programs for our residents. We also manage the Special Needs Registry, which is for our residents who may need assistance during times of emergency or disaster. They're electric dependent in some way or may need assistance with activities of daily living. And we also review and approve healthcare emergency management plans for our assisted living facilities, skilled nursing facilities, hospitals, et cetera. We have a total of 4 full-time employees in our office, including myself, a deputy director, as well as 2 emergency management associates. Some of our accomplishments over the last year include activation of the Emergency Operations Center to a level 1 full activation in response to Hurricane Milton, which was the most impactful of the 3 storms that impacted Lake County last year during the 2024 hurricane season. And the EOC was activated for a total of 16 days to ensure the safety and welfare of Lake County residents in coordination with all of our partner agencies and county offices. As part of our response to Hurricane Milton, because of the impacts that we saw, we did end up coordinating with a lot of our local partners as well as our county offices to open up the Storm Recovery Center to provide short-term recovery resources for our residents who were impacted by Hurricane Milton. And we had that Storm Recovery Center open for 21 days. And we had folks like Housing Community Services, we had Laser, Community Legal Services, those types of folks helping us out to provide services to residents at that location immediately post-impact. We also had a relatively busy cold weather season where we activated our cold weather shelter plan 7 times in coordination with our faith-based partners who opened their doors for our residents who are in need. And that provided shelter for 228 residents over the course of the entire cold weather season. Other accomplishments related to Hurricane Milton involve the nonprofit organization that we partner with, Laser. So they worked to identify and complete over 300 residents' assistance cases. What that typically entails is things like private property debris removal and tarping roofs and just assisting residents as they continue to recover from the impacts of the disaster. They also helped to facilitate the delivery of over $200,000 in donated goods and services to survivors of Hurricane Milton, and they utilized over 1,300 volunteer hours to provide direct assistance to residents for those debris removal activities, roof and home repairs, and other services that were required. Some of the efficiencies of our office over the last year include continuing our project for the countywide hazard vulnerability assessment. And this project is a countywide assessment of critical infrastructure in the floodplain and what we can expect to see for flood impacts and possible mitigation over the next 50 years. Completing this project will open us up to opportunities for additional mitigation and funding so that we can identify projects that we need to complete and then hopefully receive funding to complete those projects. We also provided multiple incident management trainings so that we can enhance the emergency management skill sets of our EOC staff and our first responders, and we had 133 participants in those trainings overall. And we also partnered with the Lake County Office of Fire Rescue and our municipal fire agencies to deliver a wildfire workshop to improve countywide response coordination and preparedness to wildfire incidents. We're often thought of as just the hurricane folks, but we also have involvement in those types of incidents. For some of our benchmarks, our special needs population has remained relatively consistent. As part of our management of the special needs registry, we do a call down every year to ensure residents are still within the area, still need to stay within our special needs registry. So we are sitting at about 566 residents currently registered as part of the special needs registry. As part of our healthcare facility annual reviews, this number has remained relatively consistent as well. We currently review plans for 97 healthcare facilities within the county. As we said, we had four full-time employees in our emergency management office, just in comparison with the rest of our surrounding counties. And then this is a total direct emergency management spending per capita. So for our population, what do we spend in comparison to some of our surrounding counties as well? And our proposed budget for this year, some of our changes include operating expenses, where we are going to be doing a hurricane exercise next year, as we are updating the software that we utilize within the EOC. So we want to make sure that we do an exercise to test to make sure that new software is going to work well for us, and that everyone is familiar with how it works before the real thing happens. And then we are also increasing aids to the long-term recovery services that we currently employ. And some of that increase in our overall budget number is that grant to provide the hazard vulnerability assessment countywide. So you may not see that next year in this number. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions if you guys have any.
All right, questions?
No question. Just again, another compliment. I think your team does a wonderful job. Very proud to have you as part of Lake County. Seen you work in action in years past. You're just not allowed to have any hurricanes this year. They're too expensive. They're too much of a pain, and we can't have one this year. No.
She's been told it will be reflected on her evaluation in the fall if we do have one.
Exactly. Yes.
I appreciate the
We're gonna hold
compliment.
you to it.
I hope you don't get to see us work this year.
That's true. Yes, it's a good year when it's quiet and we don't see you that much. But
Correct.
yes.
Thank you.
Anybody online with questions? All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Megan, can you go over the importance of the Citizens Hotline and how you become a volunteer for the Citizens Hotline?
Yes, so the importance of our Citizens Information Line, we activate that almost every time we activate the EOC. When we're doing trainings, I always tell them they're the folks that are first in, kind of last out, because they provide essential public information to our residents when we activate for storms. And so the number is 352-253-9999. We try to keep it consistent so that folks know the number to call, even when we're not in disaster time, and they can remember it easily when everything is really stressful. But it's staffed by county offices and staff typically. Sometimes we even have volunteers from the community that participate in that effort. And if folks do want to volunteer to be part of that, they can always contact our office and get processed as a county volunteer, and we'd be happy to have their assistance during these times where we all need to band together and respond to the storm. But it is absolutely the place where folks can call, one-stop shop to get the information and resources that they need when we have major disasters like Hurricane Milton.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Greg Holcomb and Public Safety Support.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Greg Holcomb for the record, Director of Office of Public Safety Support. So we'll be following the same outline that you've seen in previous presentations. So to talk a little bit about our organization, as the name indicates and infers, we support public safety throughout Lake County. So and that is not just Board of County Commissioners, public safety agencies, but it's all public safety agencies, so all the municipalities, police, fire, medical, 911, and addressing across the county. So we have oversight, responsibility, and management of the radio system that all the first responders utilize. We provide technical and repair support for radio users, including the municipalities and the sheriff's office as well. I didn't mention them previously. The management of technology used by public safety entities for CAD, mobile data terminals, and the network and cybersecurity as it affects those. And we facilitate the 911 street naming, addressing across the county. So addressing is a intricate piece of the 911 operation, obviously, and that's kind of where it starts. But that service also is performed across the county for addresses and new addresses that we'll talk about in the presentation. So, and we maintenance and management of the 911 systems. So everything we've got 4 agencies: Groveland, Leesburg, sheriff, and EMS fire rescue. Those agencies all have 911 systems, so we support the backroom equipment, the call answering equipment, recordings for all of those locations. And then, as I indicated, or will indicate in the slides, we have oversight and management of grant opportunities and activities that we participate in throughout the county for that support. So, we do that with 12 FTEs, including myself, split up into 3 separate sections, and our budget kind of reflects the same. We've got network operations, 911, and countywide radio, so, and technicians and individuals that support underneath each of those sections. So our accomplishments. So as I indicated, we support public safety. We've deployed individuals across the state with that you heard from emergency management with the storms that occurred this past year in support of communication efforts across the state for those that were affected more drastically than Lake County. So we've got a project of audio-visual going on in the EOC right now. And we're in phase 2 of that, replacing the system and enhancing some of the other rooms so that when activations occur, that runs smoothly and communications happens effectively within those locations. Fire rescue apparatus is a big movement this past year. So with technology changes in the cellular world, we're moving everybody to the 5G wireless. Which means we're touching all the apparatus, the 119 apparatus in the county fleet that we're changing that over in. We began construction of 2 public safety communications towers, so a new one based on growth in South Lake County, and another one that's been in the plans for a while in the Altoona, Umatilla area that will eventually save us some money once we get those constructed and obviously provide those services in those areas. We completed a boundary assessment, part of our next generation 911. We did GIS work with all of the surrounding counties around us. You would believe that when you look at a map that all those boundaries are 100% in line with each other. But in 911, any small sliver, a foot, 10 feet, 20 feet, is a big deal when it comes to routing calls to the particular agencies and the proper agencies. So we've completed that and are working on that database, which will be part of a larger database throughout the state of Florida. So, you'll hear in our presentation, one of our big accomplishments was a reallocation of personnel and operating expenses. There was new legislation, Florida Statute 365-172 changed last year, changed kind of the makeup of the 911 board in the state, and changed how money could be allocated and funds could be allocated. So we've adjusted those funds to show some savings in both the EMS trust fund that we utilize and the general fund. So we'll talk about that here in a moment. Some of the efficiencies, we leveraged over $4 million, pushing $5 million worth of grants this year. Those grants were made up of Emergency Communication Board 911 funding. Also, there was a legislative priority assignment for the Wellness Way area that we're looking at a tower based on that community expansion there. ARPA funds to support the tower projects that we were working on, along with the EOC audiovisual project, and also some UASI funds, the Urban Area Security Initiative funds for some site security of our tower sites. So we're requesting grant funds. We had a failure of a UPS and generator during one of the activations, Hurricane Debbie this year, which kind of brought us to our knees in some ways, shape, and form. So we're working on some grants for some replacement of that and hope that to be positive for everybody. So computer-aided dispatch, the Sheriff's Office went under contract a couple of years ago to replace their computer-aided dispatch system. Our fire rescue operations are combining with that to give a holistic view of computer-aided dispatch information to not only law but to fire rescue and cross-communicate between the two. So a very positive project, but has taken a while because it's a very encompassing project. It includes all the municipalities, as well as the fire rescue operations, new equipment, new software, new programming. So that is scheduled for November of this year as a cutover right now, according to the timeline of the program. Working with the cellular carriers, we've got actually 4 co-location processes in the works right now. One will be coming to the board in June for carriers to utilize our communications towers. A lot of people would look at that as, hey, well, you're looking to collect revenue, and really that's obviously a side benefit, but one of the other benefits is it's not new towers going up in the community. It's a sharing of resources, resources that have to be there for public safety, and the ability to put those cellular carriers on those towers as well. So we're pretty happy with that. And then the other side benefit is it provides those services to our first responders as well in our community within Lake County. So pretty happy about that. And then our tower projects, once we're done with the 3 tower projects that we have on the books, it actually results in elimination of 2 leases that we're doing right now on some towers, and saves us funding in that scenario where we're paying lease to be on a tower that we don't own. So that's a pretty positive move from the budget standpoint. So, as we get in benchmarks, the first one here, very busy slide, and we're always looking at it from a standpoint of it's busy, but it really tells a story. So it's based on our address points, and I don't want it to be confused with population, because sometimes you look at it and you say, hey, population here is a growth, but address points aren't. So population and address don't always have a correlation directly. But in this instance, our growth in address points was basically roughly 1% over the last year. And those are true address points. They do not include government, churches, those type of situations. They also, if you're looking at mobile home parks are generally one address with a multiple group of individuals in them. So that's where population changes kind of come into effect in Lake County. But puts us at a point that more growth in address points than Orange County, and more growth per percentage in capita than Volusia County. So, but those are the numbers that we're experiencing, and what our staff is accomplishing in adding those addresses. And that's done very closely with planning and development and building department. We work hand in hand with them as that development occurs, and the developers across Lake County to add those address points. So. Next one's just radio users. We just kind of keep track of this. There's usually a growth model related to it. Our count went up a little bit this year, but that's based on new law enforcement officers, new deputies, new firefighters, and the communications that are going with that. But based on land mass and population, we're still down at the low end of utilization for radio services. So we're happy with that benchmark. 911 calls per call taking position. So in the 911 centers, there's certain number of positions across the county that actually can have the ability to answer 911. So and this gives a kind of a per capita based on those positions. So in Lake County, per position, and that's across all 4 of those agencies, 6,539 calls answered for the year. So that's per position from that standpoint. So that puts us kind of second in line with what's happening across the rest of the Central Florida community. And last year, Commissioner Campion, you asked us to look at Lake County specifically. So we've added another slide. Same benchmark, but this is Lake County specifically for those 4 agencies. So the Sheriff's Office per capita is, and on average, answering 8,539 calls per position through the year. Fire Rescue was 5,683. Leesburg, 4,443. And Groveland, 1,764. So that is per position, and the number of calls each of them answered is there. So it also reflects, the slide doesn't reflect it, but fire rescue is roughly about 30 to 40% of the call volume. So those calls come into law enforcement first, and then they're sent over to fire rescue if they're police or if they're fire or medical. So So that is about 30 to 40% of the call volume in the 911 world. So our proposed budget, it's broken into three parts. We're a little bit different, so we break it out to kind of show this. This is the EMS Trust Fund, which handles the CAD and the network components associated with the dispatch center and those scenarios. So increases in personnel services reflects those staffing allocation restructure that I talked about. So that was moving some things to 911 and restructuring things on how the percentage of workflow were across our employees. Operating expenses, the same scenario. And then our capital outlay reduced from a standpoint of the capital that we put in this year. So looking at that overall in the EMS budget, we reduced our budget from grants, capital, and those reallocations by 47%. Countywide radio, this is our general fund side. So again, we worked on the general fund, reduced our operating expenses and our capital outlay based on some grant programs and needs in the capital side, which is a reduction of 33.3% overall. And then our 911 budget shows some increases, so you'll see a higher operating expenses. Those legislative changes allowed us to move some operating expenses from those other two budgets into 911, and 911 revenue was able to handle that at this point. And then our capital outlay is the elimination or completion, really, of some grant programs that we're currently working on with nothing else in the approval process at this point. Grants are starting to get a little bit more scarce with everything that's going on in the federal side and the state side. And you can see our reserves also went down from a standpoint of the items that we're supporting under the Next Generation 911. But the 911 budget overall, even with those increases, we still have a reduction of 38%. And then combining all of that together with a total budget, your total budget of 38% a reduction overall, combining all of those together. So we're real happy with that process. Real happy to see the grants starting to come to fruition with all the equipment that we put in place and are working on currently. So and happy with the board support of all of those projects. So from that, I'll be available to answer any questions.
All right.
I mean, just a quick question. You're obviously, you feel like you're up to date or leading edge on security and protection of these assets, and I don't want to say being hacked, but being damaged or putting us in a bad position.
Absolutely. So cybersecurity obviously is a big portion of what we do,
right.
And we do it in kind of a dual approach. So we work very closely with the IT department, Eric Ross, and their processes. But just due to 911 and public safety, we kind of go a next step of having a watchdog, if you will, over top of all of that as well. It's just across the industry, it's a 911 anomaly to kind of have a double check process on all the cybersecurity. And knock on wood, currently, our protection has been extremely well. We've had processes where some of the vendors have had server processes in the cloud that aren't in the United States. So we've gone back to those and had them bring them back into the United States. I mean, so our system really blocks everything from outside of the continental United States. I mean, because not to say there's not bad individuals within the United States, but to be exposed to the global side versus the U.S. is definitely advantageous to us not to be exposed that way. So.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, bringing it onshoring it and bringing it back here, making
Absolutely.
sure that all our assets are here. So
Yes.
that's good.
Yep.
All right.
That's it.
Anyone online that wants to comment or question? Okay. Greg, great presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you do.
We appreciate your support. So.
David Kilberry, Director of Public Safety, and this is our tab 9, our last tab today.
You'll also get blamed if there's a hurricane, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Tommy.
I tell Megan she's a content coordinator for emergency management, so hurricanes are not something that we're looking forward to. So, but I'd like to introduce myself, David Kilbury, the Public Safety Director of Lake County Fire Rescue, and we'll be going over our workshop for fire rescue today. So on an overview, obviously we're providing fire protection countywide and EMS transport, as well as our special operations for those intricacies of trench, high-angle rescue, extrication, not only from the specialty tools that are required, but also the exotic and hybrid fuels, and now the electrification of so much of the U.S. transportation, and even roadways are going to be electrified in the future. So really, it requires highly trained experts for the challenges that we get presented when things don't go as designed and crashes occur and things like that. We also provide county-wide medical direction for not only Lake County Fire Rescue, but we also do that for our partner agencies that are part of the EMS system of our non-transport fire departments. And with that comes the oversight of all clinical treatment to ensure that everything's being provided correctly, the education for compliance of not only the medical direction, but the state Department of Health of our certifications for our EMTs and paramedics, as well as the regulatory compliance that the state, as well as Medicaid and Medicare require as we bill in our transport services. We also, if you're not aware, provide the replacement through the EMS MSTU of all the burn rate disposable items. And it is significant, but because of the biohazard and the things that are associated with the things that we do, a lot of our products are disposable just for the safety of the patients as well as our providers. And then we also participate in many regional as well as state deployments. We're part of the Task Force 4, which is a network of specially trained individuals for collapses. The most recent that you'll know of, not only hurricanes, but the Sunset Towers. That went on for weeks for the specialty response that required. And then as Greg just mentioned, we do countywide fire EMS emergency dispatching for all of the municipal fire departments as well as Lake County and all of our EMS transport agencies. And we also provide fire inspections on the existing occupancies that require that by state statute in the Florida Fire Prevention Code. So the next one we have is how we are divided up into 5 pillars of divisions that make up the Lake County Fire Rescue. We have 500, just a little north of 500 personnel, but about 450 of those truly respond to the 911 emergencies throughout the county, both from transport as well as fire. So our accomplishments of this last year, I am proud to say that over a little more than a year, we worked to get a very competitive collective bargaining agreement to attract and retain some of our highly trained professionals. And I am glad to say we are currently operating out of Fire Station 39. We have a grand open house with the community to celebrate that next month, and you'll be getting an invitation to that. We've repurposed the Lake County Welcome Center into a state-of-the-art training center. And currently, this past week, we have been doing our state-required medical direction training for all of our paramedics and EMTs. And also, that is where we've been hosting our Monday through Friday paramedic in-house class that no one else in the state is doing to meet our future needs. And then we also, I mentioned, we have 2 existing construction fire inspectors that are going around to comply with those occupancies that are meeting the fire code. And that's truly, an economic sustainability. We do not want to lose not only housing, but some of those key industries and businesses that operate in the county. We just want to make sure that we keep them safe for the dangers of fires. I'm happy to say that we are on target this year to meet all of the requirements on us from the ISO training requirements, and that has to do with driver's training, facilities training, and as well as company training. So we are well on mark to meet all of those requirements. And then I'm finally really proud of Deputy Chief Kim Stevens and her team. She is the only one in the organization that has accredited status, and we've been reaccredited, and we also are at full staff over there at that center. So she does a fantastic job, and kudos to her. Also, we've been tasked with seeking out and applying for grants, and we were successful in just about $400,000 last year from not only AFG from the federal side, but also from a state EMS grant for carbon monoxide detection. And that's significant because of, especially in our environments of hurricanes, when generators go around, we have these gas detectors on our defibrillators to where it immediately identifies that it's in a life-threatening atmosphere and can lead to what is causing the problems with the patient. The human body has no way to detect the presence of CO, and it binds to the red blood cells in the body, and it's lethal. And so this is a very important safety item that we are able to obtain. And we also were successful in replacing 41 thermal imaging cameras that actually look through the smoke and can find the seat of the fire, and as well as victims that may be in those structures in those dense smoke atmospheres for them to be found and located. And we've upgraded our rapid intervention packs to where we can refill air bottles for a firefighter that may be inside a building who's trapped and can't be extricated immediately. So we've got some really good tools to keep our personnel safe. So efficiencies, I'd like to talk, we mentioned the in-house paramedic program. We're about a little over halfway through that, and it is really going to get success to get people on the job and certified with their own paramedic ambulance before the end of this fiscal year. Our G2 dispatching is a product by Honeywell, and that is not only the audio but also visual alert with digital readouts of what the personnel are going to. The significance of this also is it takes out the human excitement of the dispatcher when they really are being faced with a very stressful environment. The AI voice that comes across does not excite and cause the adrenaline dump of our responding personnel. It's someone else's emergency. It's our job, and so it allows those people to keep their senses without activating the adrenal gland of increased heart rate and keeping that stress low. And I will tell you, over the life of a first responder, that adrenal dump leads to atherosclerosis. So this is truly a firefighter safety system that we're installing in the stations as well. We also, Greg had mentioned, we're really excited about the 5G network, and that goes to the cellular database of our in-cab navigation and communications with the center. So we can bring up real-time mapping. I'm sure you're used to using your cell phone for like Waze or Google Maps. This one is tied to the communications dispatch to truly give the best route. And the reason we don't utilize that app for our emergency response, because typically Google Maps and Waze tries to get you around those things that we're trying to get to. And so we can't rely on those commercial apps because we need to go to the heart of those things that are causing traffic accidents and things such as that. We've also implemented a senior duty program to where one of the executive senior staff members are always available 24/7 on an assigned week-long time for significant events, injuries, things that occur, to where they have a member of senior staff available to communicate, give direction, and also notify the county manager and other agencies in the county of events that are taking place. We also have instituted a shift division chief to where they oversee the 5 battalions assigned both on the EMS and fire side for direction and stability throughout that. And then the last thing I'm proud to say is, of our executive staff, with the 6 municipalities that we contract with, we've provided a member of senior staff to be a quasi-fire chief to assist in strategic planning, disaster communications, and updates for those town managers and city managers that we contract with. And I will tell you, they appreciate that so much. So our challenges, as you know, fire safety delivery is not a revenue generating, it's very expensive, and funding continues to be a challenge not only for us, but for all municipalities throughout the state and the nation to keep pace with today's U.S. Fire Service. We've had a challenge with the available qualified workforce. As you've heard me say in the past, everybody wants to be a social media influencer. There's not a lot of people that don't want to work today, but we are making great strides in our recruitment efforts and the county's communication team to use social media to attract and reach those individuals that would be great. We are looking for local talent to serve local needs, and so we're on a very good trajectory on that. And I'll share some numbers here in the future here on where we're at with that. As you know, with the competitive labor, trying to keep pace with the demands of not only our internal forces, we try to retain them from going to lucrative offers of other agencies. And so I mentioned the last year of our CBA that we were able to, through the direction of the commission, really a good competitive contract. Our supply chain delays, I will tell you, I've talked to a few of the manufacturers at the last conference that I went to, and they truly had a meeting where Sutphin Pierce is the manufacturer that we typically utilize in Emergency 1, and asked them what is going on. And they said, really what happened was the influx of the ARPA money into the industry and the significant increase of orders nationwide. It's a peak, and they can't build more factories and hire more workforce because they are slowly starting to catch up. But that's really what caused the backlog and delay of delivery on a lot of ambulances and fire trucks in the United States, is because of those ARPA fundings influx into that. As you know, our fire stations, some of those are well behind the times, and we're part of our volunteer. And so we have some limitations and challenges of how we fund of the relocation and reconstruction of those as well. And we have some good plans in place as we work to that. And as we talked about roads and capacity and things like that, that also affects us. Is the population is coming to Lake County, and trying to keep pace with that emergency service delivery is a challenge that we all share. And so the last thing is our water supply, and to protect those is one of the 3 key elements for ISO. And so we haul water to those fires to keep those ISO score at our 3x, and we've got some additional plans in the future to bring additional water supply to where we could meet the requirements of an ISO 1 department just through shuttling water. So that's what we're working on. So going through our benchmarks here, we're talking about our EMS incidents and transport history. There has been somewhat of a downturn after COVID, and some of that is people just didn't want to go to the hospital by ambulance and at all costs would stay away. And also, in reality, there's a lot of people that did not survive COVID that aren't here today. And so we are now starting to see back to normal levels of transport. We've had an increase of call volume over the last 4 years, but the transports are starting to go up as well in that. And so we are seeking to meet those future demands as well. The other thing I'll mention is from a revenue standpoint, we only bill the patient that we transport. The ambulance many times may go and we'll get a release or not take the person to the hospital themselves. We only invoice and bill those individuals that ride to the hospital in our ambulances. Our next benchmark we want to talk about is our average transports per ambulance. And this is telling to our other Central Florida surrounding counties is our team does an incredible job with the workload faced with them. And some of this has to do with not necessarily funding alone, is just the available workforce to meet the demands and trying to get people in the door. And as you know, prior to here, we've had some challenges of our transport history, but I will tell you, we are on the trajectory to meet those future needs and been partnering with the county manager as well as our training staff of how we meet those future needs. So I'm proud to say we've got some solutions in the very near future to rectify that. But you can see the significance of just the workload. No one else works harder on our transport than the men and women that wear the patch that ride in our ambulances in Lake County. I think I hit sorry about that. So to put it in perspective of what the cost of standing up a brand new ambulance is, it's just a little bit under $500,000 for the ambulance, the chassis, the box, and all of the equipment that goes on that, not only the disposable, but some of those items like a Lucas device that does the manual CPR. We have ventilators and specialty defibrillators, and a lot of things go into that ambulance. And the oxygen and the networks and the systems and the communications with the ERs, they are truly a rolling emergency room, and they're not cheap, and they're highly expensive and custom made to our needs for the community. So you can see since the COVID of the increase in that, And you're seeing that trickle-down impact for those manufacturers as well to get the welders and the specialty electricians to wire those. This is some of that reality of what you're seeing here on the cost of those. For a fire truck, we talked about the pumpers and the manufacturers. The same thing here is I hail from Michigan, which is the birthplace of the big three automakers, and everything is known as assembly line production. Here it is different. It is hand assembled because of the intricacies of every community's need that needs to go into those fire trucks. It starts with a frame and a motor's delivered, and they special build by hand and manufacture and fabricate and plumb and wire those as a custom build. They have a quasi-assembly process, but it is not a chain-driven hydraulic assembly line to where they're just adding to it. It truly is humans assembling the intricacies of those, and you can see the cost is now almost $1 million for a Class 1, Type 1 pumper. The average staffing, this is no surprise to you. We've been working through this as well of a strategic plan, but Sumter has made the announcement that next year they will have a minimum of 3 firefighters on all of their apparatus. And so we're working through a strategic plan to attract those firefighters and get them trained and get here as well. Still have some work to do there, but this is where we're at to our surrounding counties for staffing. All right, moving into, we have 2 major funds in the fire department. The first one we'll talk about is the EMS fund, and that is the countywide EMSTU, as well as our billing for services, is how those are funded. And the highlights that I want to mention here is some of the cost increases that you see are the collective bargaining agreement that we talked about. But in addition to that, we used to transfer funds over to the fire side, but this year, 2.3 of that is truly going to be paid out of the EMS fund for those dual certified firefighters that ride on the ambulances. They're not putting out fires, they're actually in the ambulance. So that's why you'll see that cost. It's being tracked a little bit different. And of that roughly $8 million increase, 2.3 of that is that what is being paid to the firefighters that ride those ambulances. We are going to be adding 3 additional ambulances next year. We have 20 today. 2 additional ambulances are overtime only. And through the hard work of the county manager and our team, we believe with the new positions and the reallocating of rescues to medic status, we believe we'll be able to stand up 25 ambulances next fiscal year with approximately 45 additional people to replace the firefighters on the ambulance, as well as additional new ambulances there. And so you can see there that there's not been a lot of technological advances that replace the humans in this line of work, and you can see that traditionally almost 90% of our budget is to pay for the human labor that goes into that. So the next one I'll bring your attention to is our fire budget, and our funding source from there, as you know well, is our fire assessment fee as well as our fire MSTU. And the reason for that fire MSTU is we are not allowed to expense any dollars from the fire assessment fee to the roughly 90% of what we do on the medical side of that. And so typically, though there's more to it, it traditionally allows for the paramedic incentives for a basic life support fire truck to become advanced life support capable. And the equipment incentives that go along with that are funded out of that MSTU. And so you can see in the highlights there, we have 2 significants, the collective bargaining agreement that we talked about, and then also the safer sunset of 21 positions now. We no longer have spotters on the financial bar, if you will. We are lifting that on our own through this year's budget of that, and that's roughly $1.7 million that we did not have reimbursed by the federal government last year that we'll have to fund this year. And obviously, we talked about the competitive job market. I do want to mention that June 2nd, we have a hiring, and after that scheduled hiring, we will have 14 vacancies on the single cert EMT paramedic side that we're yet to fill. And with a big smile, we'll have 8 firefighter position vacancies after that. So we are getting very close to reaching full staff. And I can only thank the county commission, the county manager, and the training team and HR of the progress we've made, because we've had truly in the numbers of 30 and 40 vacancies on that. So we are truly making progress there. And then I'll just wrap up of those two funds together, the total operating budget and where those funding sources come from on that slide. I will tell you, it's a pleasure to serve this county. Not only am I a resident, but I truly am honored to have the opportunity to serve under the county manager and the team, and I'm open for any questions.
Do you have any questions?
I mean, maybe some questions, just more, probably more comments too, but obviously big, important issues for us to think about. But, you know, I'll start off by just saying I really appreciate you, Chief, and your team. I see some of your team is here. You guys do a wonderful job. I see you all over the place now. I know your leadership at least is out there. I see them all over the places, you at meetings and things, so I really appreciate that. You know, we all want the best service and response times, and I know you're very sensitive to that. It's been a tough year with the contracts, and we got that in place, so that's great. I really appreciate that. It's a big step for us. You're getting caught up with the staffing. You said almost just 8 positions maybe at some point. We're getting close to being fully staffed, so I think that's great. The ambulances, I'm glad to see that it's 3 you said is going to come on this year?
So today we're at 20. By this time next year, we're hopeful to be staffed at 25 full-time.
Okay, that's good because of, you know, some of our recent discussions with one of the cities about EMS, and I can't thank you enough. Again, you and your leadership being very firm and supportive of what I know going into meetings, that we can't fragment our system and, you know, have just people doing different cities and everybody going different ways. I mean, not that they're not committed to public safety. I never want to say that they are, that they're not, but it's better if we're a system that's not fragmented. And I appreciate that, and I think we had, you know, some success to try to work through that issue with Claremont, so I appreciate that.
And I, too, appreciate you understanding the significance of a system versus a service locally. And so kudos to you as well, Commissioner, for recognizing that.
Yeah, I think, you know, just the whole, when you geofence stuff and, you know, you're going to respond in one area but then not respond. I know firefighters to the core just want to help people, EMS, anybody. And so it's like, well, I'll just help anybody in Lake County. And I know ideally that's the way it should be. It doesn't always politically work out that way, but I do think that we had a really kind of a successful moment in the way we dealt with that in Claremont to, you know, concern over the response time, not response times, but maybe it was particularly stroke patients and how to address that. I mean, there's, just for the record, we're not a county that's known for having a poor response time when it comes to stroke, are we? No.
Yeah, our biggest challenge too is we're very close to having a comprehensive stroke center here in the county, but you have to leave the county to go to a comprehensive stroke center, as well as a trauma patient has to leave the county. And so that speaks to the volume of the specialty of care if we can't fly them out, of the duration of the travel to those locations. But it's truly a system. Excuse me. So those first responders on the fire trucks let us know that we have a stroke alert or a sepsis alert or a trauma alert, to where we start those chains of survival and we work closely with our air craft from not only UF but Orlando Health to get those people to the destinations that need to increase their chances not only of survival but quality out of hospital discharge.
Yeah. Again, that's the communications aspect. I'm real big on, you know, trying to continuously communicate that out there to everybody that we're serving. You know, that it's really the person that's showing up first, and you want the best training for that person. That's what's going to really save lives, is making sure they're equipped to do that, and then the equipment's going to come along and get you out of there. But it's really the person first. So
Yeah, and my staff and myself are always available to partner with you at any meeting or provide any data or resources that you need to answer those questions to your constituents, because they're truly our customers as well. So I stand ready to serve up any of your needs or questions on those types of meetings.
Yeah, and some of the fire stations we're building, like the one that's in Montverde, that's coming. Yeah, those are going to be open. You know, people can come and visit them. I mean, I know obviously when you're not on calls and what have you, but they are sort of turning into more of almost like little mini community centers. And
Absolutely. You know, a fire station truly is the core of the United States community, and we are working toward making some inroads to that, of moving to open houses so the public can see their local fire station, of how their first responders serve. And we're going to do one of those next month with Station 39.
yeah, and that's
Really make it a
important up in the, some areas that are a little further out too. That may be the best, one of the strongest community centers that they have is going to be centered around their fire department. So thank you. Appreciate it. That's good.
Thank you.
I don't know if there was any questions to that, more of just comments, and I know it's been an interesting year for us, so I appreciate you.
Anyone online requesting to speak? No? Okay. And that one slide where you show the number of, you've got the ambulance trips, let's see. We're the highest, where we've got per.
Yes.
That one?
Yeah, transport
So
per
those are
ambulance.
the annual transport averages per ambulance in the county.
Okay, so we're working those vehicles really hard.
Yeah, where we should have a 4-horse mule team, we have, one. And so that's the inroads we're making to add additional resources to bring that work demand. We track through data through our team of UHUs, and we are exceeding capacity in many areas. And when you exceed that capacity, you create chaos in the system. And so, again, it's not just based on dollars. It's finding those people and getting the ambulances and the equipment. It takes time to get somebody to the competency level where a medical director with a Florida physician's license is comfortable to say, yes, you can do advanced procedures on people under my license. And so we certainly take that seriously, and it takes time to get to that level. If we had those people, we'd have 27 ambulances on the roads today, but it just takes time. It takes 1 year for an EMT to become a paramedic. And as you know, we've changed some of that, of changing the way they're educated by just putting them through class Monday through Friday. So we are working to lower that. But that shows you the significance of the men and women that wear the patch, of just how much work they're doing. They just catch call after call after call.
I think a phone that's deep down in my.
I love speaking with music in the background. It just gives
not my phone.
It's like somewhere deep underneath here. Yeah, I just wanted to understand the slide better from the standpoint of, like, the vehicle versus the people that are working on the vehicle, and what the increase in the number of units on the, once they come in and they're on the street, and then you've got personnel that are qualified, as you just described, in order to operate the vehicles. How soon can we see this number go down?
Yeah, so there is a state test that they have to pass called the National Registry, and that's truly the beginning of starting our internal process through provisional to get them to the comfort level of our protocol. That is you go through the state paramedic course, but no different than going through law school and having to pass the bar. You go through paramedic school, you have to pass this state National Registry license to be qualified to even be considered to go through the provisional process and push the drugs and push the IVs and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so there's been some challenging, throughout the state of, you have 6 attempts or you have to take the entire program. And we've had people unsuccessful on all 6 attempts. After that investment, they just haven't been able to get across. So we do comprehensive reviews on those testing things. And so that's a big challenge in and of itself. It's not just the education, but the testing process that goes with it. And where you think we're right on the path, we don't have a good success rate, and we're right back to where we're still struggling to get qualified people. So a lot of different challenges.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, keep us posted on timing as far as, how your progress on all of this.
I sure will. Yeah. I promise you we're dedicated to get there. We know the demands and the needs, and I know the men and women and the mandatories. We're doing everything we can. All paddles are in the water to get us where we need to be for relief.
I'm interested in Sumter County too, how they're going to their 3 on a truck. did they do an increase in assessment? Or maybe we can talk about that later and get a little bit more information on kind of how they made that move. I don't know if that's grants or what.
Do you know,
I
David?
do not know offhand, but I believe some of that is, as you know, they went a little bit sideways in a last minute in a budget process. They've had planning over the year to where they're going to get to where they need to be, but they don't have 27 fire stations like County.
Sumter County, because the Villages Fire Rescue Service takes care of a majority of their residential population, they have a lot less that they have to focus on as a county.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just as a little side note, so we talked about Station 39 and the crew is there. That will be the site of our next Liberty Tree. So we're going to do the Liberty Tree dedication / ribbon cutting and open house for the new station. So
Awesome. That's great.
All right, wonderful. Great, thank you. Okay, all right, well, that concludes our budget meeting, and we will stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Great presentations. Really appreciate all the hard work. So we're getting out of here, what, 11:45? Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much. We stand adjourned.